Now let's jump into a video with Sam Harris. Says this war was necessary. The way Trump did it wasn't. Here we go.
Sam, should the U.S. have taken military action against Iran?
Yeah, well, I think you have to hold two thoughts in your head simultaneously to have an adequate answer to this question. So the first thought is that at any point since 1979, it would have been a good thing to unseat the regime in Iran. It would have been true when they took our hostages. It would have been true in 1983 when they engineered the bombing of the Marine barracks in Beirut. It would have been true during the Iraq War, whatever you think about that war, given that they were producing all the IEDs that were killing our soldiers. It would have been true at in 1989 with the Salman Rushdie fatwa. Right? I mean, this is an engine of terrorism and just awfulness for the world, right? For open societies everywhere, and so, to say nothing of the immiseration of the Iranian people, right? So, and I think it's a scandal of the Obama administration and the Biden administration not to have done more to support the Iranians who risked their lives to fight for the civil rights of women in particular at various moments during those administrations. I just think we have strangely been deterred by Iran for a generation and a half, right? We've been scared to tangle with Iran because it was a proper jihadist regime, is a proper jihadist regime run by true religious fanatics that showing a kind of really a bottomless appetite for making life miserable in open societies wherever they can do it directly or through their proxies, right? So that's all true. And yet, here's the second thought. It's also true that the Trump administration is the most corrupt and incompetent administration I think we've ever had. And we are right to worry that Trump and his enablers and the rest of his administration, people like Hegseth, don't have any real purchase on a sane, philanthropic, humanitarian impulse. I mean, they whatever they might say about caring about the Iranian people, we're right to worry that doesn't run very deep. I think Trump is totally capable of breaking everything over there and then just turning around and saying, well, this is victory. It's on the Iranian people now, and we're done. I think he could do that in a way that no other U.S. president really could with a clear conscience, right? So next week he could declare victory and leave Iran in total chaos, right? So I don't know what to expect from this war. I certainly hope it goes well. I hope what happens is there's a proper regime change and the Iranian people get to express their desire for something like a secular democracy, desire which I think many of them, probably a majority of them actually have. I think Iran was always a much better candidate for regime change and nation building than Iraq and certainly Afghanistan ever were. So I think we have drawn the wrong lessons from our misadventures in Afghanistan and Iraq if we think that Iran was just a hopeless case and we should never have meddled there. But I think it's totally rational to worry that Trump will do this badly. The communication has been just appalling around this. I mean, he's done nothing to prepare the American people for this. We have no allies other than Israel. Congress has been silent.
That's true. Like the American people want to know, like, very straightforward. What are the objectives? What are the reasonings? What are the objectives? What do we aim to gain out of this? How does this help American people? What is in our best interest? And what does winning look like? What does losing look like? How long will the war be? Like, these things have to be laid out. And Sam is right in that regard. Like, most people just don't know. And so what they see is that weird clip from Marco Rubio. They see all this stuff about Israel and Jews, and they listen to Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, and they're like, oh, we're just doing this because Israel runs our government. No, that's obviously not true. Ben laid that out. Pretty much everyone laid that out. The first video we watched laid that out. But if there's never if there's never like clear objectives stated by the American government about this is the reason we are doing these things, boom, 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 boom. And as things progress and change, we'll come back on TV and tell those things in the most straightforward way possible. Then the American people, like myself, are going to be confused about what's happening. What's the point? What are we doing? How long are we going to be there? And so, like Sam Harris, I agree in regards like this is a necessary thing, right? Because of all the things that Iran has done, the history of them, the people needing freedom and self-determination. And this was maybe the best chance for it, even though the former CIA officer, Andrew Bustamante, thinks this wasn't the perfect time for it. There's people with many different opinions. But if we can get like a really clear picture and objectives and point of view from Donald Trump about why we're doing the things we're doing, maybe then things could be squared away. But it's so sort of ambiguous and this and that. And then it just like, it just doesn't work. And so Sam and Ben Shapiro agree on certain things, but they'll never agree on President Trump. And I think Sam has a point there about the messaging has been so bad, and you never really know which direction Donald Trump is going to go in. So again, he could leave in a week and say, we won. But really, did we win? What's the point? Are they still as strong as they once were? Are the people free? What about women's rights? Like some of the most important stuff that's happening there. And so I think that's a necessary point to make. Anyways, let's continue.
Aligned as they have been in everything. So this is a constitutional problem. So it's all kinds of bad in terms of how this has been done, and yet that doesn't mean it will necessarily fail. And I certainly hope it doesn't fail. So if you can reconcile those two thoughts that may seem contradictory, that's my view of it.
Follow-up question. I don't need to do the whole part. I can just begin with it. I'm wondering if Sam has any regrets about his hawkish stance, possibly giving the U.S. administration coverage for what looks to be naked aggression without a plan.
But my hawkish stance on what?
My work is easy because I use ClickUp. Here's how I keep track of all my tasks. I start by brain dumping everything I need to get done.
On giving the U.S. administration coverage, for feeling supportive for what's happening in Iran right now.
Well, I don't think
like any regrets for being hawkish at all.
Well, no. I mean, everything I said around that first thought is true. It's just what I believe now. It's what I believed before this war started. It's what I will believe, really, whatever happens here, because I think it is just, in fact, true that if you look back at the protests, the Iranian women some years ago, crying out for their civil rights and risking torture and death, merely to take off their hijabs in public. If you care about women's rights, if you care about human rights, you should care about those women, right? And it's completely intolerable that we have acquiesced to this meme that is somehow a sign of bigotry to express how evil it is that under this version of Islam, women are subjected to what is in reality gender apartheid. I mean, it's just and obviously this is not the only concern I have with the Iranian regime, but that concern alone should have led to much greater support from us. There is no outcome other than regime change that should have or would have in reality ever been acceptable here with respect to Iran. Iran can never have a nuclear weapon because it's a jihadist regime. And I can make the generic case. We are perpetually at war with jihadism, whether we want to state it that way or not. And Iran, almost uniquely, was a proper jihadist regime that was within reach of developing nuclear weapons. And so it's just, there's no world in which we can negotiate with a regime like that, even though we can pretend to, as the Obama and Biden administrations did. And as Trump may yet pretend to. I mean, that's the other thing that we have to realize, is that Trump may decide that he's going to try to create some Venezuela-like endgame here, where he's just going to install somebody who will claim to be pliant, but in this case really can't be, because all of the people who would follow from the ranks of the surviving mullahs in Iran are in fact religious maniacs, right? I mean, it's a very different situation than Venezuela. So I think it's just an absolute mirage to think that we could ever have negotiated any sort of proper peace with Iran, given the actual religious commitments of the regime. Um, and that's a fairly unique case. I would not say the same thing of Saudi Arabia or many of these other Muslim states. I wouldn't say the same thing of Pakistan in its current form, and Pakistan has nukes. But if Pakistan ever got taken over by a real jihadist regime, we would have a full-on emergency with Pakistan, right? So um, the nukes and jihadism just do not uh, play well together, and we can never lose sight of that. And we were on the verge of losing sight of that with respect to Iran. Um, but I don't think I gave anyone cover for anything. I just think this is just true, and yet it's also true that the way Trump has done this is authoritarian, right? This is not the way a U.S. president should take our country into war without explaining anything, without consulting anyone, with having cartoon characters, running the effort. I mean, you just listen to Pete Hegseth talk about anything, and you know you're not in good hands. Um, so there's nothing optimal about this, but that also doesn't mean that the aftermath of this might not be better than what preceded it, because what preceded it was just about as bad as can be.